let's start this webinar. So we have waited a lot for everyone. So we have received around 250 registration in this webinar to be as a participants. So we will now starting that. Now, as the title suggests that we have organized this webinar to let an clear understanding on novel, new, and next generation medical devices. And since there are a lot of startups and innovators who are introducing their products device in the market first time, so they need to understand or define their device properly in accordance with the definition of novel, new, and next generation, as there are a lot of regulatory challenges and lot of regulatory alternative pathways are available to launch a device in market. So to make a better understanding over this, we are now organizing this webinar on behalf of QVC Certification Services Private Limited. This webinar is uh, to understand the differences between these terms. We will relate with the best practical examples in that as much as possible we can, and we will include some further more examples with the real-time examples in the webinar to explain these terms, relevant regulatory pathway, and what type of regulatory pathway is applicable if you choose the term. Okay, so the term shall be assigned appropriately in such scenarios. Now, so let me introduce with my company, the QVC. We are QVC Certification Services Private Limited, and accredited NABL and approved CDSCO medical device testing laboratory. We have an expertise of 10 plus years in medical device testing. Our principal expertise lies in electrical general safety and safety testing of medical devices, household appliances, and other electrical uh, appliances, devices, or cables as well as. So far, and I would like to let you know that so far we have also introduced this year IS standards in our scope of certification, which is IS 13450-1, which is for general safety, which is equivalent to IEC 60601-1. So uh, we are specialized in certification services relevant to product certification, management system certification, and personal certification. And our core domain is testing of other appliances and medical devices, which is broadly in medical electrical equipments, electrical laboratory equipments, explosion proof testing, IP testing, and validation of HVAC, clean room, and any another methodology or process. So far, our core competence lies in clean room and HVAC validation, which is an accredited services of ours, electrical safety testing, medical electrical equipment, laboratory equipment, machinery products, EMI, EMC testing, IP testing, environmental testing, and cable testing, and household appliances as far as. So QVC's expertise relies in those areas. So we are actively involved in medical device testing, compliance of medical devices, rules and regulations. Our another dedicated team is engaged in training of in the medical device industry and technical guidance in the medical device industry. So let's now come back to our important topics for which we have organized this webinar. So far, uh, let me explain that I have designed a poll for you, so you can join that poll also. So at the end, we will discuss the results of the poll, as well as if you have any specific question during this, you may raise your hand. In the end, we will allow you to speak. And now, and if you have any specific questions which you want to ask us, you can write us in the question answer box, and you can also mail after this webinar. You can also shoot up a mail to us. Our team or me will reply you appropriately. So now coming back to our topic for the webinar, we are starting now. So let me ask you if you are if I am audible to you. Just please write in chat box yes, so I can initiate further, because now from now we are starting the important topic. Okay, so let's start. this uh, as innovators, you bring groundbreaking devices to life and important innovations you are carrying out. But more important is that how you ensure these innovations are ready for the market. Means any startup or any uh, R&D facility has designed any device. The second, after the designing and development of those devices, the most concern is to commercialize that product. To do a commercialization, we have to choose a most appropriate regulatory pathway, which should be a cost-effective manner and have an appropriate pathway to grant the approval within the time frame which you have planned. Okay. While considering these regulatory pathways, your first and most critical step should be considering the below three factors on which basis you are going to finalize or do a planning of your project or any task or objectives which you define. First one is that patient safety. Every regulatory step ensures devices are safe for patient use and or ready to for patient use. And market entry of the devices, misaligned regulatory strategies can lead to delays or rejections. And third one is the cost efficiency in the terms of manufacturers as well as like if you're choosing the wrong pathway can increase cost due to rework or additional studies, clinical studies, other testing studies, validation studies, usability studies, which might affect the project timeline as well as and increase the cost, obviously at resource point of view as well as. So these are the objectives on which basis we have to decide our regulatory pathway, a most suitable regulatory pathway on our devices or in our project. Okay, so now the question is that how and when use the term novel, new, and next generation for your devices. So before moving that, there are few important terms which we on which basis we have to decide whether which term we should designate our device or what we call these our devices. Based on that terms, based on that definitions, we have to decide whether our device is novel, whether device is our completely new or it's a next generation device, right? These terms are applicable to both IVDs and medical devices. Their application and their applicability we will discuss during the examples which we discuss. So first, let us understand the terms, right? So first term is the working principle. Working principle of a medical or IVT device describes the fundamental scientific or engineering concepts underlying its functionality. Uh, this provides the theoretical foundation that explains how the device achieves its intended purpose. In most of the cases, generally in general, if we can talk that it's a scientific principle behind our idea. Okay, means if our device if I give a good example of that, the mechanical ventilator's mode of action is classified as providing respiratory support through controlled airflow through the lungs. So this type of working principle we can say. Another working principle on the scientific validation, which we can include that the pressure, positive negative pressure of on which the biological particles or liquid can flow from here to there, or an airflow of by the pressure mechanism which is used in CPAP BiPAP devices. So these are the working principle behind the devices. Every device has a working principle which is more or much related to the scientific or theoretical scientific concept on which basis we develop our device, right? Now, the principle of operation of the device. The principle of operation describes how the working principle is applied in practice through the design and functionality of the device. It outlines the steps or mechanism the device uses to execute its intended purpose. Mostly, in most of the cases, the principle of operation is how you have designed, like using this your scientific concept, how you imply the design or your working of your device, how the device is going to implement those scientific terms or theoretical terms, for which we can give an example that in an infusion pump the principle of operation includes using a peristaltic mechanism to deliver the precise volume of fluid to the patient at controlled rate, right? So if we talk in terms of IVD devices, so for a PCR device, the principal operation include the thermal cycling to amplify the DNA. Means the thermal cycling is an scientific procedure on which basis we can develop different types of IVD kits, reagents, another IVD kits. So this is the principle of operation. So by using the scientific scientific terms, scientific techniques to develop our device. So scientific techniques which we are going to implement or imply to create an idea is our working principle, and the principle of operation is that how we have implemented that scientific scientific or engineering concept to design our device. It's simple as that. Now, third one is that mechanism of action. It is much and more related to the therapeutic devices or the drug kind of things, but we have to understand these terms. Based on that, we will able to find the difference between novel, new, and next generation. So often it is often used interchangeably with working principle. This term is more common when discussing therapeutic or diagnostic agents. It refers to how the device or drug interacts with the biological system to achieve its effect. It is much and more related to IVD in cases, and most of the cases for those devices who are drug device combinations, right? So for the example, if I would give the pacemaker coming in mind is the best example for that, because it involves the delivering of electrical impulses to the heart to regulate the rhythm. Now, and coming toward the fourth point, it's a mode of action. This term is specifically used in regulatory context to describe the primary means by which a device achieves its therapeutic or diagnostic effects. It's a crucial for classification and regulatory approval. So this term is more related to the drug related part. So obviously the medical devices also comes with a drug device combination. So it's also applicable over there, not an traditional medical devices which we talk with general class A, class B devices which are not having any part of drug involved in that. Now the last and fifth point is that the intended use and indications for use. So it is a most common thing which we have to define properly, precisely for our devices, and covering all the aspects of the definition of the medical device rules or IVD as defined by any regulatory body. So so far all the medical device definition is regulated by GSTF countries, whether India and other countries are now almost on the same ground. So the intended use defines the general purpose of the device, specifying what it means to do, right? If I give an example of that, like blood glucose meters, intended use is to measure blood glucose levels in a diabetic patient. So its intended use is as clear as to measure the blood glucose level, right? Similarly, for another device, if we say what is primary intended use, what is a device designed to do for, right? Now, coming towards the more refined term, indications for use, right? The intended use is a general term which is the same for almost all type of devices or the similar kind of devices, but indications for use may differ by the device type, or the similar device types also differ in the indications for use, right? So the purpose of that indications for use is outlines the specific medical conditions, patient population, or clinical scenarios the device is designed for. So in intended use, if we compare with the definition, it only includes for the purpose of the device to mean for it do, right? The purpose of the device in general. But when we are going to elaborate its indications for use, it includes the specific medical conditions for which the purpose is defined, the patient population for which the purpose is defined, or the clinical scenarios of the device designed for. What were the clinical scenarios? So we will relate it with blood glucose monitor again, for which we have defined the intended use. So earlier we have defined its intended use, that blood glucose meters intended use is to measure blood glucose level, right? That was the intended use. But when we're going to define its indications for use, then it is indicated for diabetic patients, right? So the medical condition is diabetes, and the like patient population is the diabetic patients. So the words itself defining them all, right? The diabetic patients requiring regular glucose monitoring. So this is the complete indications for use. It is not necessary that you write an intended use of one paragraph or indications use of one page. It's not always necessary. Just stick to the clear medical condition or a cause for which you have designed or developed the device. It is not necessarily we have been asked by regulatory body to define a one paragraph or a one page intended or indications of use. You can be much and more precise with your intended use to avoid any misconceptions and irregularities in that. Now, so furthermore, there are few terms for which we can also consider while defining these terms or differentiating these terms, like the functionality, which describes the specific tasks or outputs a device performs, highlighting its operational capabilities. Technical specifications provide the measurable parameters and features that define a device operational limit and capabilities. So if I am going to talk about the functionality, so like taking an example of pulse oximeter, what is the functionality of that pulse oximeter? The simple and basic functionality is that to measure the oxygen saturation and the pulse rate. Additional pulse rate is additional in most of the cases, or most of the devices bear both features. So it is the functionality of the device, right? But in terms of a technical specification, if we talk about that, the what the measurable parameters of the pulse oximeter consist, like its body, its PCB and its sensor specification, what type of sensors, how much nanometer or the light it emits, how it measures, what nanometers light it absorbed or reverted back. So these are the technical specification. To be more precise, we can to include another example, like a big device for a CT scanner, if we can say. So that specification includes the slice thickness, its resolution, we call it spatial resolution, and the radiation dose which will be provided. So what will the range of the radiation dose? So this will comes under the technical specification of the device. Now the third and important point is that about the clinical performance. So refers to the effectiveness and safety of the device in actual clinical use, often validated through trials or post-market surveillance. So clinical performance is much and more related on the validating your scientific justification or relevant to your intended use. So whether the device is effective in actual clinical condition or not, right? So most of the why it is important when developing a new device, we have to provide a clinical evidence, and that clinical evidence is backed by the clinical performance of the device, which for which we have a different routes and methodologies to show the clinical performance of the device. And it's this term is more also important the whose already existing devices as well, as because it includes the data from vigilance or post market surveillance. You have to also establish the performance of your device till today, right? As the science is evolving, there are the devices are needs to be upgraded, right? That's why the concept of next generation devices exist. We will discuss this in the coming slides, right? So now moving towards our the most important thing for which we have the title of our webinar: the novel devices, the new devices, and the next generation devices. So far we have discussed the terms which are associated with these type of devices or terminologies. So basic definitions we have defined with example, right? Now we have to define these terms. First I will define you these terms, then in next slide we will include an example and relate the how the defined terms are relating to these terminologies. Okay, right. So first one is that novel devices. So this is typically a disrupt existing paradigms, requiring new regulatory pathway, extensive clinical testing, and potential reclassification efforts. Right. So the novel devices are very new in the market. Not they are not available previously. No predicate available for these novel devices. They are completely new. Okay. So, and now moving to the second terminology, it's a new devices. New devices build on existing frameworks but introduce significant updates or address unmet clinical needs, right? So for the new devices, we can say that based on the existing scientific methodologies, they have been made like we can say a working principle. They may have a existing working principle, but they might lack or differentiate in the principle of operation. okay, for which directly affects its design and the more or less designs and methodologies to manufacture. Okay, so like I would say the example of that, nowadays you see the medical devices or are now being making smaller and smaller, right? Like if you say earlier the measuring diagnostic devices are big, a size of a monitor or size of a computer or a table, right? But nowadays you see small sensors have been developed. So pulse oximeter is a good example of that, and another sensor or diagnostic devices, right? So these devices are more based on the existing scientific or working principle, but these devices we call it a miniature devices, like we have made smaller and smaller due to the evolving technology. Their intended use, their application is remained same, but the design is changed. So that's why we call them new devices, right? So for these devices there are certain unmet clinical needs, so for which we have to do the comparative analysis studies, another studies, relevant studies we have to do, right? Similarly, the next generation devices refine the usability and performance of established technologies, offering incremental yet impactful improvement. Like we can say that you have been granted an approval for a devices, but on the course of time, doing the post-market surveillance, vigilance activities, you have developed something new thing, right? New features you have developed. So that's why uh, new uh, new technology, new techniques of usability due to, based on the feedbacks you have done certain changes in your device to make a new variant or model of your device. So that will come under your next generation of device, which you can compare with your own existing device or next available device of your choice or of your matching intended use. So these are the terms so far. Now we are going to relate these terms uh, with this. So if you have any uh, yeah, if you have any furthermore queries related to those, you can still drop your message in your chat question answer box, right? So in the end, we will be going to discuss with each and everyone, right? We have ample of time to get it discussed. Okay, so this is the main thing for which we have gathered, right? Coming to the next, so the terms, right? The novel devices. So we have discussed the novel devices, what are they and what we call it. Now we have to relate what the term consider a novel device, right? If you have developed a new device, so first on these based 4 points we have to decide whether our device is novel or not, right? So coming to the working principle. For the novel devices, the device introduces a new, untested scientific or engineering concept, right? If we are talking about its working principle is very new or unique, and it is an untested scientific or engineering concept till today. Then, if its working principle is meeting these two conditions, like it's new, untested scientific or engineering concept, then we will consider it completely a novel, right? Now if we talk about in the terms of mechanism of action, completely new way of interacting with biological system. Again, it is an untested scientific or engineering concept. If it is tested, then already available, right? Then clinical performance, unknown or unpredictable outcomes requiring extensive validation. For the novel devices, the clinical performance is always a challenge, for which we are not known any unknown about the outcomes, or they are unpredictably outcomes requiring extensive validation, right? Like say for the new devices or next generation devices, we usually do a comparative analysis, right? So we are already sure as much as we can that these type of outcomes or risks are posed in my devices, for which we have already taken an action. But in novel devices, we are not aware what might go wrong, right? Because we have not enough scientific or clinical data to support our evidence, for which novel devices undergone extensive validation, clinical validation, another testing validation to gather these much of data, right? Then a regulatory status for the novel devices. Of course, if above three conditions, three terms condition, working principle, mechanism of action, clinical performance criteria are met, then of course you will not find any not find any predicate or comparable device, right? So if you are not finding any predicate or comparable devices for your device, then you can consider your device as a novel devices, right? But always remember, we have when classifying our device as a novel device, we have to work in all aspects like its working principle, mechanism of action, clinical performance. We have to work on these parameters to decide whether our device is novel device or not. So far, if we say, if we any most of the scientific or engineering concepts are validated, right? In most of the cases, you will find for any new disease, you will have a scientific concept to develop a new device. If the device or a disease or a clinical condition is exist in past 5 or 10 years, for that purpose, a device or any medication or any other thing is already available in the market. You have to search. So already novel devices are being developed to cure a very new type of disease or any new type of uh, like medical condition which for which the cure is not available, or a medication or another treatment is not possible. So novel devices are more focused on that scenarios. So when any investor is going to show his pitch deck, he must include that for what novel disease he is going to eradicate from the certain type of population for which he is going to claim, right? Now, second is the new devices. So new devices, if we are going to that, so working principle, we will not talk about, because uh, for the new devices already tested scientific or engineering concept is available, right? What we have done is we have done certain type of modification at the design levels to improve its functionality, technical specification, and indications of use, right? Like earlier we have developed a device which is beneficial for a certain age group of patient population, but alternatively the device is also effective on a higher or another similar kind of disease, right? Likewise, so for the new devices, the principle of operation is certain point of modified from the existing one, modified implementation of an existing working principle, right? So which can be in the form of ease of access, user interface improvement, right? So based on that, you have included a new design features to enhance the more usability of the device, which we can find through the usability engineering of the device, its functionality, enhanced or additional functions added to the existing technology, right? If you can say that nowadays the sensor based technology is evolving rapidly. So to reduce the risk on the high devices, the most of the highly complex devices have been include a sensor based technology to reduce the risk, alarm based technologies. So earlier these devices does not possess the feature of alarms or sensor, right? So nowadays the sensors are also added in that to reduce the risks as far as possible. So the new functionality has been added, so these are considered as a new device. So their validation, their comparative study needs to be done, right? In terms of technical specification, the improvements in accuracy, sensitivity, or efficiency of the device, right? So, and for the indications for use, expanded to the new patient populations or conditions without fundamentally altering the intended use, which I was talking a few minutes ago about that, right? So, new devices, when we are going to classify our device a new device, right? So we have to talk, consider the factors of principle of operation, functionality, technical specification, indication for use, right? And if we are talking about the novel devices, then it must becomes important to focus on its working principle, mechanism of action, clinical performance, and the regulatory status, right? Of course, the novel device follow the de novo pathway or a completely new clinical investigation pathway to achieve the regulatory approvals. Okay. Now the third term is that next generation devices, right? So next generation devices are much and more related with the closely related with the new devices functions, right? But few things which we have to consider. No, there is no much regulatory pathway differences between the new devices and next generation devices, but there are huge difference in novel devices and new and next generation devices, right? Novel devices is a separate, completely new set, requires the clinical investigation and rigorous validation prior launch to do a commercialization, but new and next generation devices does not require. So coming to the next generation devices, their mode of action, we have to focus on its mode of action, their principle of operation, working principle, functionality, technical specification in much more cases remains the same. So maintains the same action but optimizes delivery or performance, right? And for functionality, incorporates the state of art components for better user experiences, right? Based on the market feedback, vigilance data, surveillance data, the functionality it's improvised, right? Based on few modifications which does not affect the design at huge level, right? So for the technical specifications, upgrades to meet higher industry standards, better resolution, faster processing. So the technical specifications are updated on regular basis, right? Then clinical performance demonstrates incremental improvements validated through clinical studies. Like, so if I am going to giving an example in terms of clinical performance and technical specification, functionality, and mode of action, considering combining all of them, that if you have heard or you have done the trend analysis of your device, right? Trend analysis, if you see that in certain year you have the increasing pattern of complaints, risk, or adverse events, right? But in your next generation device, you modified some functionality, improved this technical specification, right? For better resolution or faster processing of the results, efficiency you have improved, right? So so when you release that next generation of devices, you see that your trend analysis is you have a decreasing rate of the complaints, right? Or no complaints. So this is called the next generation of devices. You can treat it as a next or new variant of the device. Okay, so these are the differences. Now we will going to understand the regulatory pathway, which pathway is applicable for these type of devices. Now, clear and cut to cut state is that the novel devices require clinical investigation. If you are the device which you have developed, right? The device which you have developed based on that criteria of working principle, mechanism of action, clinical performance, and regulatory status, finds that there is no that your working principle or you have the method which you are utilizing it untested yet, or there is no scientific validation done on your path, on your principle yet, then you can consider it your completely novel devices. And in that case, to do a commercialization, you have to do a clinical investigation. So, if I say that few countries require, in case of IVD, mostly case of IVD, because those are more concerned about their population, so they want that any device which is not approved in their country, right, but approved in their country of origin or exporter country. So they have to, if they're introducing first time in the market, they have to do a clinical investigation in their country to release that device, right? So for that country, that device can be considered as novel device, because, right? So but it is always a new devices. Few countries give relaxation, like India is one of them. If your device is already approved on US, Brazil, European Union, Australia, and Japan population, then you need not to do a clinical investigation. You can directly launch your device or commercialize your device in India as well. As so you have to check with the regulatory bodies as well. As so considering the factor of India, if you are developing a device in India, so then you have to include these terms: working principle, mechanism of action, clinical performance, and regulatory status, to consider your device a novel device. As valid justification you should prepare why you are going to classify your device as a novel device, right? That will help you in a pitch deck to gather more funding from the stakeholders to a novel device, right? So the new devices can often leverage existing regulatory pathways like predicate device or route or comparative studies. So new devices, as we have discussed, their principle of operation is modified. There is a well stated scientific justification of it is available, right? So its functionality, technical specifications, and slightly indications for use is modified to be considered as a new device, right? So while approaching for the approval, you can go with the uh, comparative study route method. Like for the novel devices, you have to obtain MD22, MD27, that then MD14, MD5, MD7 as applicable, right? To do a commercialization. But for the new devices, you can directly obtain a test license under MD12. Then you can go with the MD5 or MD7. Okay, and if you are going to import that device, new device, then you will have an option to MD16 to import that device, test and validate that device, then go for the MD14 to do a commercialization of that device, right? Now, for the next generation device, typically follow existing pathways, but may need additional evidence to demonstrate improved safety or performance. Like that, generally it's a case of endorsement and at the time of renewal. Like you have to do include the surveillance data that your device is slightly modified and submit the uh, post-approval change to the government of India, CDSCO, or concerned licensing authority as applicable to you, right? So next generation devices does not follow typical regulatory pathway. Already existing pathways, you have to notify your regulatory body or include or do an endorsement or post approval change in your license. But the new devices, you can often leverage some existing regulatory pathway. So you have to choose whether you will be going to predicate device route or comparative study route, right? So with the right strategy, your journey to regulatory approval can be efficient and cost effective. Take the time to define your device category, assess its risk, and align your pathway with global regulatory requirements. This is how innovation reaches patients faster and faster. So, from here, I would like to conclude that webinar. If you have any questions, you may raise your hand. We will allow you to. Hello. There is a question from by Malvika ji, that in which statute or rules these are explained. So, considering that these are not explained by any rules, these are the basic terminologies on which basis we have to provide a justification why we are considering or going with these rules, right? So, and if you find the further industry guidance document, so it is well explained. And if you find the checklist provided by the regulatory authorities, they clearly ask few questions whether any predicate is available for your device or not, or its indications for use and scientific justification. So, regulatory bodies are not concerned whether you are considering your device new or not. It's you who have to choose the regulatory pathway as per your own and provide the relevant scientific justifications, clinical evidence to the regulatory body. Upon the acceptance of those justifications, regulatory bodies may give you approval or grant you approval. If they find that, uh, like if you are going with the new device or next generation device, obviously you have to submit the predicate device data and clinical evidence subsequent. So if it is not suitable or not accurate as the device you are claiming, then further evidences or to be you have to be redirected to do a clinical investigation in such cases, right? So now people have been asked, so I'm just allowing them. Okay, so you may ask, please. Hello, Mr. Vignesh, you can ask.
Hello, sir.
So if you have any questions, you may please ask in the Q&A box. I will answer you one by one.
So, can we get the recorded session of this with today's session?
Okay. Yes, ma'am, please.
Then how can you share with that with us, sir? Can we
PPT.
share our not
Uh,
your recorded if the session is recorded? If we want to
okay.
rehear the sessions and understand
Okay,
much
sure.
better.
We have published the article on the website as well as, right, and
Okay.
yeah, the PPT will be uploaded on that article section as well as, and the recorded session will be uploaded on the YouTube channel, and it will be linked in the article as well as. Okay, so you
So
can
your
refer that.
YouTube channel address, sir?
I will share in the group, and at the end you will receive a feedback link from there. You can access the channel links, right?
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, it will be good if you share the YouTube link access to us.
Yes, sir. Please, it will be communicated to our channel as well as in the medical device regulatory group as well as. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. That's fine.
Okay. Mr. Vignesh, you may please ask your question. Hello. Okay, so I'm moving towards the Q&A section. So I'm picking the questions people have asked. Will you provide the completion certificates of this is an webinar uh, conducted on the basis of request we have received. So there is no certificate is granted. The resource will be shared by a link to in the groups or communicated. So another question is that is these terminologies common across FDA? These terminologies are common across the globe. So based on that, we have to decide whether our device is new, novel, next generation. We have to designate. Actually, when we are going to develop our device, we have to designate that we are claiming that our device is new or novel. Like nobody has. We are claiming that, right? It's a kind of patent thing. When you are going to uh, take a patent, grant patent for your things, you prove that you claim that our thing is our technique or our technology is completely new or novel, it is not existed anywhere like that. So these principles are fundamentally like that. So another question is that please explain, is there a involvement of many RA body apart from CDSCO to approve clinical investigation like ICMR or ethics committee? uh, Currently, there is an CDSCO is apex body. The clinical investigation applications are only approved by the CDSCO, and from the ethical committee, you need an approval of your clinical investigation plan, right? So, ethical committees are also approved by the CDSCO. You can find the list from the CDSCO website as well as ICMR is an consultative body for the CDSCO, and from the ICMR, people, the experts consult the CDSCO in the clinical investigation and other matters. CDSCO has different advisory bodies like DTAP, subject matter expert committees. So from the people from these ICMR, AIMS domain are a part of that. So ultimately, all the approvals are granted by the CDSCO itself. So can you please once again say which all medical device forms are required when considering the device as new IVD? Okay. So if it is a new IVD, you can go with the test license, medical MD12, then commercial license MD5 or MD7 as applicable. And if you are considering it as a novel device, then you have to first take an MD22, then MD27, then commercial license MD5 or MD7, whichever is applicable, or MD14 as well as. So, where to find predicate device data other than MODE? Now, CDSCO has also released this predicate medical device license facilities data. You can find it on CDSCO MD online portal. So, from there you can find the device name and search the manufacturer as well as, right. Yes. So Another question that we came across a fault detection device. The manufacturer claimed it's not a medical device and no CDSCO approval not required. In such cases, does he need to take any exemption letter from CDSCO? Currently, class A devices which are non-measuring, non-sterile in the as per claim, so are exempted from the licensing regime. So there is no license required. You have to do the registration. So fault detection device, you need to take a registration from the CDSCO portal, right? And CDSCO does not provide a letter of exemption for any manufacturer. You can, though you can drop a letter to them requesting for the grant. For medical device CDSCO not listed in category, but import license is provided as class B. How we can move with that? Right. As per the gazette notification published or definition published by the CDSCO, all medical devices which are falling under the definition of medical device are considered as a medical device, whether it is not listed in the classification list of the CDSCO. But if it is granted approval in import license, then it is a notified medical device. You can take approval, subsequent approval based on that approval provided, granted, right? Sir, micro lab orthopedic implant is covered under which scheme? So your question is not clear, Mr. Chandan Rai. So can you elaborate this question so we can further answer you that? Is there a database to find all CDSCO approved database? Yes. We have also published the approved devices list notified along with the notified category. You will find it in the medical device regulatory group as well as CDSCO also published over the CDSCO homepage and the form of PDF. So you can find it on the official website of the CDSCO as well as our software medical device under CDSCO requirement. Yes, SAMD medical devices are notified medical devices under the CDSCO requirements, and if the software also falls under the definition or comes in the preview of medical device definition, then definitely it's a medical device. Okay, sir, definitely we will consider your request to take a session on 510K clearance and EU CE marking pathway. So I will take a note and intimate to my department that on the next section we may continue with EU CE marking pathway. For happening this webinar, we will inform you and circulate you. Please be in touch with us. So please the link for registration of license. The question is not clear. Okay, so if our device is class B and the predicate device is class C, intended use is also same, then can we consider predicate device for approval? So your question is a little bit complicated, Ms. Vaishnavi. Uh, in that case, let me remind you the rule of CDSCO. Then if you are claiming to be your predicate, it considered in class C device, then your device can't be come under class B. It is by default come under class C because under the rules CDSCO has directly written that higher classification is preferred if they have classified device class B and in GSTF country or the predicate you are claiming higher risk. So your device also comes under the class C. You cannot claim it class B device if you are claiming a predicate to be class C device. So you can consider it a predicate device, but the classification will be upgraded. Hope this answer is suitable for you. Yes, yes, I have mentioned that class A non-measuring, non-sterile medical devices does not require license. The CDSCO registration is mandatory in that case. For the guidelines, you can visit the CDSCO website as well as, and you can ask your queries in medical device regulatory as well as, or you can mail us directly on execution@qvccert.com. So our team of experts will review your query and respond to you appropriately. Now moving towards the next question. We got test license on 2022 April for a medical device as class B, but CDSCO listed category is class C, so we need to get test license again for class C. Okay, so interesting case it is that if your device earlier classified as class B and now it is classified under class C and you have done all the validation As for the class B, then no need. You have a transition period, and you can provide a justification regarding the same, that at the time of granting the test license, the device was notified as class B, but at the time of granting or application of medical manufacturing, it is the risk classification is upgraded. So you can go with the manufacturing license, because test license is same for, like, same application for class B and C, and class C devices. You have to file MD7 as well as. So you can give a justification suitable, linking to the notification which you are referring to classify as class B and class C, right? Do class A devices require clinical study for seeking import license? Not always necessary. You need for class A devices. In general, if you can take that, because class A devices are very low risk profile devices, so hardly they need a clinical study if they are interacting with the biological system. So most of the approx 99% devices which I am being aware of, that they are not in having interaction with any type of biological system, so they're exempted from the clinical study. However, you can do a comparative study and your relevant literature study, market study, vigilance data for a device to seeking approval, right? If the device is class A, non-measuring, non-sterile, then you need to get it registered under the CDSCO portal. And if it is a class A measuring or monitoring device or sterile devices, you need to take an import license in that case. Okay, so moving towards that. Okay, CDSCO has only one terminology, that is new device, that we may call novel device. Novel when predicate is not available. Yes, I agree with your point, but as I explained, this it depends upon how what we are claiming. So a single terminology cannot imply overall. So we have to consider that other supporting keywords, terms which we defined in our device master file as well as. So if you have referred the fourth schedule for the DMF part 3 of the medical device, and part 4 of the IVD devices, you will find that under the executive summary, you have to define the working principle, intended population, indication for use, warning, contraindications, and the novel features of your device. Right. So the novel device only possesses a novel feature. A new device cannot possess a novel feature. Remember that the terms have been already incorporated in your technical documentation, so you have to reply those terms wisely, considering all those factors, right? Currently the files are in review, are not as much as expected, but in future the technical reviewers may increase, so they will point out these things. Okay, so one query is from Mr. Chandan Rai. Is biocompatibility possible for non-sterile products? So, as per considering the standard 10993, the biocompatibility have several aspects, material characterization and other things. If your device is interacting in any form with biological systems and another things, then biocompatibility is applicable. So it is not always necessary that only sterile products undergo with the biocompatibility. If the criteria to define whether biocompatibility is applicable or not, it is based solely based on the interaction with the biological system, tissue, or skin interaction. Is test license also needed for SAMD? So as per the medical device rules, yes, you require a test license for SAMD to show that how you validated, how you done your pre-commercialization activity. Who do I contact for the technical queries? You can contact with me, myself, Gautam Singh Rathod, and I am putting my email ID in the comment box. You can reach out to me anytime for any technical queries and assistance. Either me and my team will respond you appropriately, right? So hope I have answered all your queries and questions. If you have any more, you can ask. So okay. Yes, you may please ask again if you have any questions. I am checking the query box, right? Yes, I have dropped my email execution at qvccert.com. You can mail me directly for any queries, technical assistance. And we are now a medical device testing laboratory with IS standards as well as for general safety. So you may reach out with us for any type of testing and other certification requirements. We will be happy to assist you in further.
Uh,
If
sir,
any,
didn't receive your mail, sir. Can you repeat again?
it's execution execution @qvccert.com.
Okay. execution.qvccert@.
Execution @qvccert.com. I'm typing in the Q&A box. You can take it from there.
Yes, yes. Q&A box will be fine, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Yes.
If you have any questions, you may please ask, or else we will conclude this webinar. Okay, sir. One more question we have received, I guess. At the time of applied test license on April, the CDSCO listed category medical test class C, but we got test license class B. With that test license, I can go with MD7. So it's a bit complicated case of yours. So you can mail me or you can connect with me directly, so I can understand your case and let me able to answer you that uh, for the classification what was earlier provided, it was earlier higher, or now CDSCO has done a lower risk class. Then you have an appropriate justification to go down and upgrade your application. So it's not a major query for you. Relevant to that, what you have appropriate references of evidences CDSCO has published. Okay, so let's thanks for today, and in future we will be going to continue this webinar. Make sure you have attended the poll. So I will be sharing the poll results as well as, okay, so I'm publishing the poll results. You can see the poll results as well.